they've been held since the beginning of our republic. We don't have a direct democracy, meaning we don't vote for everything ourselves. We elect people to represent us, and those people meet with us to find out what we care most about so they can do their jobs well. But since the new administration took office in January and the Department of Government Efficiency has torn through so much of the nation's social fabric, town halls have become a hotbed for citizen action. Democrats and Republicans alike are confronting their representatives with fury as they learn of new cuts in programs they depend on. Democrats are angry with them, frustrated in their perceived powerlessness. Republicans, on the other hand, have the power but are choosing not to use it, mostly demonstrating loyalty to the president or the party rather than their constituents. These town halls have become raucous, and most Republican congresspeople have chosen not to hold them anymore. Mike Lawler is the congressional representative of New York's 17th district. He's the Republican who unseated Representative Sean Patrick Maloney, a moderate Democrat, and the chair of the Democrat Congressional Campaign Committee. This particular district has been gerrymandered recently, which made the already purple map even more red, but turnover is the norm, and no congressperson is safe. I imagine that's why, when other Republicans are avoiding town halls, Representative Lawler scheduled a handful of them during the April break. He knows well that his seat is up for grabs, even in the best of times, which these are not. His first town hall was rowdy. People were angry about everything. Benefits are being cut, prices are going up, democracy is shredding. It was loud. He lost control almost immediately, and then over the course of 2 hours. A second was scheduled actually in my town. He is my representative. And people were organizing to be heard, but Lawler's office was also preparing. This time, all questions had to be submitted in advance. People being admitted had to be pre-approved as actual constituents. They had to show ID at the door to get in, and they were led to specific seats where they could listen, but were encouraged not to speak. This meant that anyone who had called the office with a complaint, who was also registered for the event, could be flagged in advance. And they seated those people on the aisles. A friend of mine was there, seated on an aisle, so was another woman named Emily Feiner. Emily had submitted a question. It was being answered, but she had a follow-up, which she asked. And she was told there are no follow-up questions. Emily is this tiny, middle-aged, Jewish, retired social worker, and she was trying to insist that he answer her. She was annoyed. She may have even shaken her finger. And in response, 4 armed New York State troopers approached her and told her she had to leave. She refused, and she was sitting in her chair. She refused. No, what I mean by refused, and it's on video so you can see it, she shook her head, no, I'm not gonna move. And so they lifted her up, out of her chair, each grabbing a limb, and carried her out the door. My friend Amy, also a tiny middle-aged Jewish retired social worker, jumped up to protest her friend's removal, saying she only asked a question, and the response was to oust Amy as well. The question that he was refusing to answer. Will you uphold the Constitution of the United States of America? More specifically, she wanted to know what lines Trump would have to cross before he stood up to him. Lawler may have refused to answer in words, but his actions left no doubt. The answer is no. No, he will not be loyal to the Constitution, nor will he defend or abide it. There is no line that could be crossed that would trigger his defense. Someone snapped a picture of Emily being carried out of the town hall. 4 young men, police carrying an obviously passive, frail-looking woman holding up 2 signs. She had her peace signs up as they're carrying her out. It made the front pages of lots of papers. You may have seen it. I shared it myself on Facebook with this story. Tracking actually told me as of last Wednesday, more than 30,000 people had seen just the post that I put up. In an attempt to rewrite the narrative because it was going viral, as was that picture of sweet Emily, Lawler had taken to the talk shows to paint Emily as a lunatic of some kind, calling her a radical extremist. A radical extremist. Wanting your representative to promise to defend the Constitution is now radical and extreme. Worthy of removal from public spaces, worthy of trashing your constituents in national forums, worthy of denouncing in every available arena. Now, I know that every generation thinks the problems they're facing are more grave than anyone has ever faced before. Americans have been declaring the end of civilization for hundreds of years. We seem always on the brink of extinction or confronting such massive social change, nothing will ever be the same again. Preachers in particular like to herald the end of times. It's our thing. And you have to be careful because what we're dealing with has never happened before and will instigate full societal collapse. We say it all the time. This is the moment. Be careful. Society is collapsing. Nothing will be the same. American independence, industrial revolution, immigration, end of enslavement, end of Jim Crow, women voting, civil rights, smartphones, climate change, over and over again. We've stood at our pulpits and told people to be aware, this is it. So I hesitate to make such a declaration. And yet, I do in fact think that something different is happening. Or maybe what I think is that all those preachers weren't wrong. Things did change. Every one of those events and far more altered the course of human and American history. And change is frightening, but not inherently bad. And each time something shifts, we have to adjust. That's not what I'm talking about. What's happening now is the intentional and public dismantling of our democratic government. Even I might think that's hyperbolic if they hadn't created a 900-page report outlining what they're doing and why. It's called Project 2025. It's free. It's online. The conservative think tank, the Heritage Foundation, will give it to you just by clicking. Now being used as a blueprint, Project 2025 calls for dismantling of guardrails to prevent presidential corruption, mass deportations, spying on American citizens, curtailing free speech in classrooms, ending birthright citizenship, censoring discussions about race, gender, or oppression, controlling women's choices, reducing voting access, and shredding social safety nets. It's all there. They laid it out for us almost as a source of pride. They have a vision for America, and they're thrilled to be making it happen. The consequences are devastating. The American democratic experiment has never achieved full fruition, but we've fought through many blockades, pushing social evolution toward greater freedom and a deepening of what liberty really means. It took us 188 years to become a full democracy, from 1776 to 1964 when we passed the Civil Rights Act, finally creating election access for all Americans. It took longer for women to have equal rights as men on paper, and it's taken close to 500 years from Columbus landing his ships in 1492 to make headway in dismantling the white supremacy that took root here as soon as Europeans set foot on this fertile ground. As much as we know, we still have to fight all of those wars. We were moving in the right direction until now. I'm not saying we were done. What I'm saying is that there was general agreement in civilized society, in mainstream America, that we shared certain values, even if we lived them imperfectly. As a majority, we agreed that people should have free speech, that freedom of the press created a necessary fourth branch of society that held leaders in check, that the courts were the final arbiters of the Constitution, that American presidents didn't accept payments from foreign governments, that everyone present on our soil would be granted some basic rights to life and liberty, that everyone has access to due process, that our institutions would serve all Americans and not just the wealthy. The current administration, and it seems about half of our population, including our elected leaders, no longer agree to that framework. And they aren't pretending that they do. They're no longer pretending that they think Nazis were wrong or that apartheid was immoral. They are instead embracing the most vile of ideologies while simultaneously rigging government and social institutions to serve only those who agree with them, outcasting and even punishing anyone challenging this sudden and frightening development. Physically lifting tiny women from their chairs and carrying them out to ensure their voices are not heard, vilifying them on national television, co-opting even previously left-leaning talk shows like Bill Maher, neutral networks like CBS, or deep-rooted universities like Columbia to silence anyone who disagrees with their radical conservative agenda. When governments fall to autocracy, or more specifically competitive autocracy, which ours is clearly in the process of doing, there are a few things we the people can do to push back or even break the tidal wave before it crashes on us. One of those things is to create some strong communities. Join them, grow them, protect them. Know people in your neighborhood. Speak to people you encounter, cashiers, bank tellers, baristas, people at the dog park. Talk to people, look them in the eye. It is a simple and necessary part of fortifying social networks. Second, tell the stories. Don't assume people don't want to know, or there's no use in preaching to the converted. I mean, I preach to the converted absolutely all the time. If we don't talk about our experiences or opinions, we start to think we're alone. We're not, so talk about it. Talk about how tariffs make it difficult to buy things we need, or how obscene it is for a president to accept a $400 million airplane. One more thing. I think Jason said it. Be open to joy. The hate winding its way through our nation is finding purchase in the anger and resentment and fear too many people are indulging. One critical defense is not to give in to hate, but to be open to joy, and that means showing up. People are so much more likely these days to stay home, to watch online, to skip whatever social option they have. Isolation doesn't breed joy. Get dressed, join in, show up. Unitarian Universalism is, at its core, a statement of hope and universal love, which means we are armed and ready for this fight. We have exactly what's needed to take on the hate, the fear, the isolation, the racism, the nationalism, the sexism, the arrogant capitalism designed for the wealthy, buoyed by white supremacy, all tied up in an age-old patriarchy of love. An age-old patriarchy and love of rigid hierarchies that locate all the influence in a tiny circle of power-drunk men. We are armed and ready with the outlandish idea that diversity, equity, and inclusion are goals of the highest order, that people are of value regardless of where they were born or the color of their skin or the language they speak or the size of their bank account. Our faith assures us that truth-telling is our strength, and we know they're scared because courage doesn't need to carry little women out of crowded rooms when they expose who you really are. We know they are doing all they can to kill the dream of this country. What they don't know is that love fights back.